Following any major championship, there'll always be one shot that stands out amongst the crowd, a shot that the commentators will be talking about in years to come. But we've just gone through the 2024 US Open Championship where Bryson DeChambeau came through victorious by one shot over Rory Mcilroy. And there was a shot that Rory hit during his round at Pinehurst which had the commentators a little bit confused. It had the spectators thinking that he'd actually mishit it. Well, actually it turns out that the Stinger driver is a shot that he wanted to use throughout that championship on certain situations, on certain holes. And I've got it right here for us to take a quick look at. Boom, 181 mile an hour off the club face, peaking out at 37 feet high and chasing down that fairway. Well, in today's video, I want to take a closer look at the shot that Rory hit that got only 37 feet off the ground and see if it's something that we can work on that's going to help our game moving forward. Let's get out to the practice ground and see what Rory actually does to hit that shot. There's a few things that you need to think about with Rory Mcilroy when it comes to driving a golf ball. He is one of the best drivers in the world. Not only one of the straightest, but he's one of the longest out there, certainly on the PGA Tour. Now, there's a few things that Rory does in order to allow him to be able to hit that ball high in the air and get it out there as far as he does. Now, let's start with ball position. Rory Mcilroy, and like all good drivers of the golf ball, like to put that ball position up towards their left heel. This enables him to be able to sweep that ball away as he comes through his shot. The next thing I want you to think about is your tee height. Now, when all the good drivers of the golf ball tee it up, they tend to like to get the ball positioned on the top part of the crown of the driver, kind of half the ball showing just above the driver face. Now, the idea of this is that it enables them to hit it higher off the club face, which then will give them a little bit more of a higher launch. The reason for this is the further up you go with this club face, the more it rolls up and gives you a little bit more loft. The other little secret as well is that by hitting it off that kind of top edge there, it's going to give you low spin. And you've probably heard commentators say, or coaches say, high launch, low spin gets you out there further. Well, it technically actually does. It gets that ball to land and then really shoot forward. Now, the combination of those two key points, having that ball position up towards that left heel, making sure your tee height is in a place where you can hit it a little bit higher off the club face, is going to optimize the shot, giving us those Rory Mcilroy bombs that we see week in, week out. And if we look at those numbers that we've got there, we've got a carry distance of 274, a 2,200 spin with a path of 2 degrees in to out, or nearly 3 degrees in to out, but hitting up on the ball by 4.9 degrees. However, when it comes to the shot that Rory was hitting in the 2024 US Open, the driver Stinger, there's going to be some subtle changes that he's going to make, certainly in his setup, in order to achieve that low ball flight. Point number one is his ball position. Where we talked about his ball position just being on the inside of his left heel, he's going to move that ball position one ball further back in his stance. He's just going to shuffle himself slightly further towards the target. This is going to feel like that ball position is maybe more like towards where your 3-wood or 5-wood would sit during your setup. He's also going to think about his tee height. He's going to bring that tee height just a fraction lower, allowing that ball to be able to launch off the club face a little bit lower when it comes into impact. And remember what I said earlier, which was having that ball position slightly higher in the club face, enabling you to get a slightly higher launch from a higher loft position. Well, by bringing that ball position slightly further down the face, this is now going to start to de-loft the club just a fraction. So having that ball position slightly further back in the stance, having that tee slightly lower, is all going to start to bring that launch just a little bit down in its initial flight. And I hear what you're saying. Surely by lowering that tee height and bringing that ball position slightly lower on the club face is going to increase the spin numbers, causing the golf ball to possibly rise up in the air as it goes through its flight. Well, There's something else that you can do to possibly control that spin, and that's reduce the speed that you're hitting into that golf ball. And what you'll see from Rory is he's going to grip slightly down the grip of the club. This is going to enable him to be able to just shorten that club slightly, reducing his swing speed. And I promise you, it's a lot easier to be able to control that swing speed by just gripping down the club than it is to try and slow it down during the swing in a major championship like the US Open. So once Rory's got himself into that perfect setup, with that ball position slightly further back, by lowering that tee height and just gripping down the club slightly, he talks about getting his chest to stay over the ball for just a little bit longer during the swing. Now, when setting up to a driver, you do want to get the sense of trying to almost drop the right shoulder, lifting the lead shoulder up slightly. This is going to enable you to be able to hit up on the golf ball and launch that ball up in the air. Well, we don't want that launch. We want to keep it down. So what I want you to get the sense of doing is almost keeping your shoulders nice and level. To do this, you're going to get the sense of also getting your weight just to sort of lean onto the left leg just a fraction longer. This is going to keep you more over the ball throughout that golf swing. From a percentage point of view, we're talking maybe 55% on the left leg with 45% on the right leg. And for me personally, I like to get the sense that I've got a little bit more pressure in the inside of my shoe. This is going to give me the sense that I can keep it there throughout the golf swing, keeping my chest more over the ball throughout that swing and keeping that ball flight down. Now, if we look at those numbers, 233 in the carry, so I've dropped about 40 yards. My spin number has maintained a pretty good number at 2.6, just a little bit higher than what I was getting previously. If we look at my swing speed, I've gone from 109 to now 107. My strike location's come a little bit lower in the face. My path is quietened down a fraction, and my angle of attack is now pretty much neutral coming into that shot. Now, if we dive a little bit deeper into those numbers and listening to what the commentators said, Rory got it down at 37 feet during the US Open, where normally he can launch it out there at 150 feet. And if you look at the shots that I've hit out here on the practice ground, but also what I've hit on the golf course, you can see that that ball flight is a lot lower when I'm trying to get that stinger shot. The difference for me is 45 feet when I'm hitting the stinger compared to 135 feet when I'm hitting a normal golf shot. And again, I hear what you're saying when we're looking at those numbers. I've lost 40 yards. I've gone from 274 yard carry, which is pretty good for me, down to around 235 yards that I'm getting out of that stinger shot. So I've lost 40 yards. However, you've got to think about the conditions that Rory's playing in week after week. When he's playing on the PGA Tour in the States, he's going into maybe fairways that are a little bit softer. So he needs that golf ball to spend a lot more time in the air, because when it lands, it's going to drop and stop. And maybe that's something for you to consider when you're playing in maybe the wetter months at your golf club. Get it in the air for as long as you possibly can and make sure you maximize that distance. However, when it comes to that shot at the US Open, where he's got those firm, fast fairways and he wants to keep that ball under control, he can pick up that 40 yards easily from those baked fairways to get the run as it scampers down the fairway. And you're going to see this a lot more, certainly moving into the Open Championship at Troon. You're going to see those ball flights possibly come down, and certainly when it comes to those windier conditions, you're going to get those flights to want to come down. As long as they can control their speed, as long as they can control the spin, they can keep control of that golf ball. I'd like to hear down in the comments, is that a shot that you are going to go and try yourself? Is that a shot that you play at your golf course? I'd like to hear down there. And if there's any videos that you want to see on this channel, make sure you pop that down there in the comments. Those of you new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying these videos, and I'll see you again very soon.